A very happy Easter to you all. We're now in the middle of Easter week, and what I want to share with you this morning is some reflection on the 4 suffering servant songs of Yahweh that Isaiah directed to the chosen people, the people of Israel, in their captivity in Babylon. They're songs or poems of hope. And Isaiah appreciated that this people had been deprived of their land. The land had been promised to them by God. Their temple had been destroyed, that center or that focus of God's presence amongst his people gone, and their freedom had been taken away. They had been taken into exile in the city of Babylon. And to these people, God, through Isaiah, directed a message of hope. He tried to say to them that their sufferings were not in vain. That from this suffering people would spring hope and joy and new life to all nations. Also that they were not to feel themselves alone, that God was with them. And to this people, God directed his promise, and they lived in hope that one day a new nation would be restored, and it would be a light to the rest of the nations of the world. And then later, about 500 years later, Jesus, I believe, took on the spirituality of the suffering servant. I believe it was a central part of his spirituality. That he also understood that his sufferings would not be in vain. Also understood that he would be a light to the nations. And understood that in spite of all signs to the contrary, God was with him, even to the cross. And so Jesus took on the sufferings, the hatred, the lies, the rejection, the betrayal, the inhumanity of the times, and even the killings. Because Jesus hoped, because of his trust, his love for his Father and his Father for him, that good would come out of this, that this was not the end, that it was not in vain. And I believe Jesus hoped. He didn't know. He was not certain, but he hoped. And then, more recently, I believe we have many, many people, but I want to mention just 2 this morning. One is the Oscar Romero, the Archbishop of Salvador in Central America, whose anniversary was celebrated just last Sunday, or this Sunday, Palm Sunday. He was assassinated because he persisted in promoting the freedom, the relationships, the justice for his people. And that was in the face of indiscriminate killings, persecution by the elite and by the military. And he persisted in that in spite of all threats. And on Palm Sunday he was killed. He was shot celebrating Mass. But he did this pleading, this demanding the stopping of the killing, because he believed that goodness would come out of that. He had hope, real hope. And a second fellow I want to mention is this Alexei Navalny, a Russian protester, a Russian opponent of Putin. And he, like Jesus, when the time came, his time came, he went up to Moscow. Just as Jesus, when his hour came, went up to Jerusalem. And both went into the jaws of the wolf. They both confronted the evil that was there. And they both gave their lives. And Novelli also, I don't know what his religious affiliation is or was, but I do know his spirituality was steeped in the suffering servant of Isaiah. And he gave his life in strong hope that something better, something good would come out of it. And I think he, like Jesus, didn't choose death. Oscar Romero didn't choose death. But they were prepared to give their lives because they hoped so strongly that something better would come out of it. So when we celebrate Easter this year, let's celebrate with hope that our world, so torn, so tormented, and so hurt or wounded at the moment, that we might hope and really be convinced with our hope that something better will come as a fruit of our celebration of Easter. God bless, and don't forget our YouTube channel, will you? And have a great Easter. May God bless you. Thanks.